Hello, welcome to my channel where I love to share my experiences, trials and errors, mistakes and successes around parenting, unschooling and childcare. My name is Leisa. I am an early childhood educator running my own family daycare business and a mother of 4 unschooled children. Today I'm going to talk more about human design parenting, and I'm going to share particularly about having generator and projector children. So if you watched my last video on human design, I talked about how as a projector myself, what that has looked like in the context of parenting 4 children. And today I'm going to talk about how I have honored my children's human design without even realizing it, and how coming into the awareness and learning about it more every day has allowed me to validate and confirm that what I have been doing up until now is what's right and is what has allowed my children to tap into their true potential. So here I have my human design chart, and in this folder I actually have my husband's chart and all 4 of my children's charts. I will put a link in the description to where you can go to get your personal chart and your children's chart using their time, date and place of birth. For this, I am grateful that I was able to dig up my children's exact time of birth to get the most accurate chart. I do want to say that I am not an expert on human design. I am a student, but I have realized that I have been parenting my children according to their human design without even knowing. This is because I have been parenting from a foundation of acceptance and allowance. So even if you yourself are not familiar with human design or haven't been, you don't need to know human design to help your children and understand who your children are. Just being in a space and providing them an environment of acceptance and allowance for who they are, no matter what they say or do or how they express themselves, this is naturally going to lead to less conditioning for the child and enabling them to be in tune with these qualities that we can discover through human design to help us understand more clearly what that means for our children. So most of the population is made up of generators, about 80%. This also means that most children are generator children. So I have 2 manifesting generator children and 2 projector children. I'm going to start by talking about my 2 manifesting generator children. So all generators and manifesting generators have a defined sacral. So this means that they have a constant access and supply of energy. So they can just go, and they have energy to get things done. They are natural builders and creators of this world. They are intelligent, they are ambitious, and they have a lot of potential to create wonderful and new things in the world. So having a generator child means that they need to have access to their inner authority. So for any generator child, their strategy is going to be to wait to respond or to respond. This means that they are meant to use their inner authority to guide them to make decisions in life rather than being told by outside authority. So the three most basic things that are important to know about your child if you are studying human design is 1, their type. They are a projector, a generator or manifesting generator, a manifestor or a reflector. Number 2 is their strategy. So for projected children, their strategy is to wait for the invitation. For generators, it's to wait to respond. And 3, their inner authority, which is going to be unique. So both of my manifesting generator children have an inner authority that is emotional. This means that they make decisions based on how they are feeling. So this is going to be difficult for my children if I'm telling them how to feel and I'm telling them what to do and I'm telling them how to respond and forcing them to initiate when they are meant to respond to opportunities and things that feel good to them in the moment according to their inner authority. So I do want to talk about my 2 manifesting generator children and how I raised them a little differently in the beginning. So my first manifesting generator child was raised with unawareness. I had not become conscious of myself and my children in a way that could allow me to parent consciously and enable my children to fully live their true potential. So having this child who was meant to guide themselves with their inner authority, I didn't know this. So I sent him to school, much to his resistance, and I told him the things he was supposed to be interested in and the things he was supposed to do. I did not ask, I just told. This is what needs to be done and you need to do it now. When this happens to a child, they grow up with a lot of frustration. So is it any wonder if you think about how most of the population is made up of generators and most generator children are being forced and controlled by people outside of themselves as to where to go and what to do in life. You can imagine all that frustration out there in people in the world. This is because there are so many generators out there that do not know how to use their energy correctly. They were not allowed to develop their inner authority. They were conditioned to follow the authority outside of themselves. So luckily for that child, I did begin a deconditioning process. This enabled me to take my son out of school and let him start to tap into his own inner voice and direct his life according to his inner authority, which at that time I had no idea related to human design. The basic principles of spirituality for me helped me to move away from some of my conditioning, and naturally that led to me becoming more accepting and allowing of who my children were, to back off with the authority and control and to let them listen to their own bodies and live their full potential by following their guidance and passions moment by moment. I'm going to talk about my other manifesting generator child who, by the time was old enough to go to school, did not need to go because I had awakened to this truth within me that I didn't want to force any of my children to listen to outside authority and learn who they are in that way. I wanted them to learn through their own experiences and inner guidance. So thankfully this child was left alone for the most part to listen to his own inner authority, which also was emotional authority, and to make decisions based on what he was feeling and be able to learn about himself naturally in a space of acceptance and allowance. So it's also very important when you have a generator or manifesting generator child to ask things of them rather than demand. They are meant to wait to respond. Their strategy being to respond is to feel into something and being able to make that decision based on their inner guidance as to whether that's right for them or not. Most generator children do not have this. They are not allowed to make their own decisions. Their parents or society makes decisions for them, which is why they grow up to be very frustrated, have no boundaries, and don't know how to actually tap into the things that make them feel good and aligned with who they are. So thankfully, this child, having never been to school, was allowed to listen to his inner authority and do things that felt right to him. So this meant that rather than demanding that he do things for me, I asked, would you like to do this thing? Can you please do this thing? Could you please help me? Can you please stop doing that? I don't like it. Can you please come with me? And what I noticed is when I did this with all of my children, having not even known what human design was, I noticed things beginning to change. When I moved from demanding and telling my children what to do and moved into asking my children to do things, they responded better. The frustration lifted and they were more cooperative. So especially for generator or manifesting generator children, I have learned that it is very important to ask rather than demand. This gives them the opportunity to go into themselves and feel for the right answer and not just feel forced to do things. And this is still a learning journey for me. I do sometimes, being a projector mum and feeling overwhelmed with the energy of my children, I can become so caught up in everybody's energy that I start throwing demands. And this gets me out of alignment. It gets my children out of alignment. It causes frustration and it doesn't feel good. That's not the kind of parent I want to be. So discovering human design is actually such a benefit to me, because even though I have parented to the best of my ability, I can now understand the mechanics behind why my children act or acted the way they did, and it's giving me tools to be an even better parent. It's reminding me to come back to that place of asking instead of demanding. And even though this can be very hard sometimes as a parent to ask and not demand, it is something that I really need to practice more often, especially if I want to support my generated children to be able to make decisions and respond with their strategy using their inner authority. Now I'm going to talk about projected children. I have 2 projected children, and one of them has an inner authority, which is splenic, and my other projected child is self-projected. What is it like having projected children? This is very different to the generated child who has constant energy and can go and just drop dead once they've used their energy up. The projected child has limited energy. They actually have an absorbing aura, which means that they draw in the energy from those around them, and sometimes they find it hard to differentiate between their own energy and the energy of others. So just like me as a projector mum, I know that my projected children can get easily overwhelmed in crowded places. They do need a lot of alone time and personal space. So looking back and asking myself, have I been following their design? Yes, I have for the most part, not through knowing human design, but because, as I said, the foundation of acceptance and allowance has meant that if my projector children spend hours on end in their room, they don't want to come out, they don't want to socialize, they don't want to go out all the time, and they don't have the energy to do things constantly all day, then I can understand that about them rather than think there's something wrong with them and that they are typical hormonal rebellious teenagers. No, projectors actually need a lot of downtime and rest. So this is why it's been a benefit to unschool these projector children. Could you imagine if they were in the schooling system all day, every day, surrounded by all this energy and not being able to get away from it and get back to their own energy? And I did have one of my projector children in school for 6 months, and I did notice a drastic change, which now I can understand. It's because he is a projector. He was never meant to be in that environment and take in all that overwhelming energy. When he left school, he really liked to play on his own a lot, and he really didn't like crowded places, and he was very content and happy to just not have to be in that schooling environment, being told what to do, whether he had the energy to do it or not. So another thing that has confirmed to me that I've been on the right track with my projector children is that, like all projectors, we look to the other. We don't really want to know about ourselves. We want to know about others. We are fixated on the other. Our aura is penetrating, and we cannot help but see others and learn from others. That's how we learn about ourselves. Now, I do have one projector child who, having a penetrating aura, just can see through bullshit and has a no bullshit radar, which is actually a very positive, endearing aspect of the projector. They can see through the cracks, they can see through illusions, they can see when somebody's not operating as their true self, and they just don't buy into it unless they have been conditioned and are not in alignment with their true human design. So I love this quality about this child that just easily says no to the people and places that don't feel good and says yes when invited. With a conditioned child who's not in tune with their human design, and now I do want to say that you do not need to teach human design to your children or tell them anything about it for them to live it. You can just observe whether they are living it or not. So I've been able to look back and see that without the same level of conditioning that I received growing up as a projector child, my projector child has been able to follow their inner guidance this whole time and use their inner authority to make decisions about the people and places and environments that are or are not good for them. I've noticed about my children that they can easily tell whether a friend or a family member is the right energy for them, and when it's not, they turn away. And a lot of children don't have this ability because they are overpowered by their conditioning. Their inner authority gets buried, and they learn to listen to their outer authority, and their parents might tell them to be nice and be kind and to say hello to somebody even if they don't really want to be around that person. And not being at school has allowed my projected children to choose the right people to be around. And now another thing that's been a benefit for my projected children is unlimited access to the internet. Now, before you think what an awful parent I am and that I neglect my children and don't care about what they're doing online. That is not the case. But projectors need access to lots of learning and lots of study, particularly about how other people work. So I've had one child that loves the TikToks and the Instagram and loves the YouTubes and loves to identify with many different things. And I've always seen this as normal, because this is how they are learning about who they are. They're learning everything they can about how people work and the mechanisms of certain types and certain people. And this helps them to learn about what's good or not good for them. And I've seen no ill effects whatsoever having a projector child that turns to the outside world and the internet to learn and study all they can about other people. So another very important thing having projected children is that all projectors long to be seen and recognized and valued for their unique gifts. So having a projected child, it's been very important to make that child feel recognized and see their true potential and see their gifts and say, wow, you are so great. And the strategy of the projector, wait for the invitation, that means that as the parent of the child waiting for the invitation, it is going to be important to invite that child to places and activities, but not forcing them, not saying you have to come and do this sport, you have to come out, everybody else is, but actually understanding that a projector needs to be invited and needs to use their inner authority to decide if that thing is right for them. Then we can just offer and ask. But it is important to send these invitations so that they are feeling what it's like to be seen and recognized and invited. So having projected children who weren't heavily conditioned away from their human design, I've noticed that they don't struggle with the intensity of lack of self-worth and bitterness that many projectors feel because they are seen and recognized. Unlike myself, as a projected child who didn't feel seen and recognized growing up, I spent much of my life seeking that validation outside of myself. And instead of waiting for that invitation, I pushed myself onto people to try to get them to see me. And this has created so much suffering for me in my life. When a child is naturally seen and valued and loved for who they really are, not what they should be, they will naturally learn to value themselves and feel worthy. We don't teach children how to love themselves by giving them a lesson or a lecture. We teach them by showing this to them. We make them feel worthy and valued and loved. And this is how they learn that they are valued, worthy, and loved. I hope you have found some value out of this video. I would love to hear if you have anything to add in the comments, and I am so excited to share more about human design children as I learn deeper aspects of my children's charts, such as the energy centers and their profile and their definition. And as I learn, I will be sure to practice this with my children and share with any of you who could benefit from this. Wishing you all a great day. Sending love. Bye.